G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. In this video today, I'm going to be going over every single AFL club's most improved player in the 2023 AFL season. Now, of course, there are many options for different clubs, but I wanted to just try and pick players quite simply, the most improved they've been this year. Not necessarily from maybe their previous year, but maybe if they've had a career best year for a few more of the mature age players I may have put in this video. So we'll go quite simply club by club and pick the most improved player. Plenty of options to go with, so let's get straight into it. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you're going to enjoy, and let's begin. So I'll kick it off, of course, with the Adelaide Crows, as we always do, in alphabetical order, and the player that I'm going to be choosing is Mitchell Hinge. I think he's really started to find his home across half-back now for Adelaide. The thing that's really opened up for the opportunity for Hinge is the likes of 𝐷𝐷 and also Nick Murray going down with some long-term injury. It's opened up a few of those spots alongside the likes of Miller and a few of those younger players, and Mark Keane, and of course 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐶e had his debut the other weekend ago. But yeah, Mitchell Hinge has been the big one, and honestly, at the time of recording this video, most definitely, because he's been in some fine form the past few weeks. He just looks really composed and comfortable at half-back there. He's had some really nice games this year, and he's accumulating plenty of footy with a lot of games he's played too. Compare it from last season, for example, he's now averaging 19.5 disposals. Last year had 14.8, 406 metres gained to 275. He's making some drastic improvements and is now turning into one of their more important role players, especially in their back half, and becoming an important best 22 player for the Crows. So yeah, Mitchell Hinge, I think, has been one of Adelaide's most improved players this year. We'll move on now to the Brisbane Lions, and for my choice of their most improved player, it's got to be Jack Payne. Of course, signed the massive 6-year deal, so that's almost like a justified reason of why I've picked him, because his improvement this year has been drastic, especially the scenario that he has been in. So, of course, what the Lions have done is, why Harris Andrews is playing so well this year is because he's not going to on the best key forward anymore. He's playing similar to 𝐼𝐶, like playing on a third tall, but he has to show really good trust with the likes of not only Payne, but also Lester's been really good this year, but especially Payne. He's been playing on most regularly each week in, week out, the best key defender. And I feel like, honestly, he's been very underrated. And, you know, not only statistics-wise, but just his ability. Watching him this year, he's just been such a heavy improvement. He's playing, of course, as just said before, a more accountable role on the opposition's best forward each week in, week out. He's doing a superb job. Looking at the stats, I mean, 2.5 intercept marks compared from last year, which was 1.5, improving on marks by 0.2. Much lower numbers on the contested defensive loss, with 17.4% last year, 18.5. You can look at the stats as much as you want, but just stated, watching him play, he's made such an improvement, and he's become an important cog back there for the Lions. If the Lions want to win a flag or be a successful side, I think he's one of their most important players back there, and he's allowed Harris Andrews to really blossom this year, who probably will be an easy choice for the All-Australian side. So yeah, Jack Payne, he's really improved this year. And yeah, pretty easy one for the Lions in my opinion. Next club we'll go over is the Carlton Football Club, and it's got to be this man of 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐴. What a season he's putting together. When he did come across from Fremantle and the season he had last year, which was pretty mediocre, let's be honest, I felt like he'd start to obtain a little bit of the overrated tag, given he's, you know, paid about $700,000-800,000 a year. High draft pick, but wow, this year he's really impressed me, and I think it's sort of helped with a little bit of the absence of Walsh and Cripps' abilities. Both those players' abilities haven't probably been as good as last year. They've still been good, but it's just allowed 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐴 to really elevate and be the big dog midfielder in there. He's had 49 coaches' votes this year. Last year had 15, 26.3 disposals. Last year was 23.3. He's become a clearance beast as well, and he's really improved on his ability to show options inside 50 and improve on his ability to hit the scoreboard and the score involvements, all that whatnot. The score involvements look is 6.7 a game compared from last year, 4.6. Total clearances 4.5 to 4.1. Again, you can look at as much as the stats as you want, but yeah, just his overall ability and watching him play, he's made a drastic improvement to, yeah, Carlton's midfield this year. And definitely, even when the Blues were playing a bad patch of footy throughout the middle of the year, he was still week in, week out putting up some really impressive numbers. So for sure, I think he will be probably top 3 in their best and fairest this year. Might be a chance to win the best and fairest award. I don't know. Probably, obviously, should be 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐴, but yeah, no, he's made some massive improvements and massive steps this year in 2023 for the Blue Baggers. Now moving on to Collingwood, and let's be honest, we all know who this player is. He doesn't really need much introduction at all. Now, I did want to try and select a bit more of a less vanilla option than the player we all know it is. I really like 𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐴 𝐼𝐻𝐪. Shout out to him. His numbers that he's put up, the contested defence loss percentage has drastically decreased. He's rarely lost a 1-on-1 this year. He's had such an improvement and probably one of the most improved players of the competition this year, but he can't go past this player. Nick Daicos, this guy is just going to be an absolute superstar. Last year, of course, first year, he wasn't going to win a Brownlow or very close to making the All-Australian last year, but we expected big things and had high expectations on this guy this year. Especially the Pies fans had a massive preseason, put on bulk, and he's looking like a Brownlow contender. It's at the time of recording this video, it's sort of not really aging well, given he has unfortunately injured himself. So all the best with his recovery, but say you love him or you hate him, he's just such a pleasure to watch. Playing more in the midfield this year, the numbers, you can just look at the stat sheet and see the improvement. He's averaging over 30 disposals this year. Just such a natural player, and his game awareness for a second-year player is insane. His goal-kicking ability is insane. The complete package. Of course, maybe his downside is maybe his ball-winning ability in the troughs and everything, but he doesn't need that because he's a smart player. A lot of Tom Mitchell and 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼 just always force feed him the ball because his work rate's another really big one as well, and he just does so much good with the ball. Rarely wastes possession. The complete package, Nick Daicos. What a pleasure it is to watch him play, and definitely probably one of the most, or if not the most improved player of 2023. But for Collingwood, certainly is the most improved player of their side. Next team we have got is the Fremantle Dockers, and I think we all know probably this is. It's a pretty vanilla selection, but just looking at their whole list of players, I've got to go with this guy, Caleb Serong. Quite simply, last year and probably the year before, he was putting up really good numbers, sort of, if you compare it from the whole midfield group in the competition. Maybe sitting on above average or very good in terms of ability, but now this year he's putting up elite numbers, and he's for sure in that elite category of midfielders in 2023. 67 coaches' votes last year, at 61 to be fair, but I think where it's been his massive improvement is just the in and under balls. He's been really good on getting kicks forward and getting a few clearances as well. 13.8 disposals this year. Last year 26.4. In terms of contest possessions, 14.3 to 11.6. He's just in and under ball winning ability's been the massive improvement this year. In terms of clearances, 7.5. Last year was 5.5. Massive improvements there, improving on marks, of course tackles too. We all thought Andy Brayshaw was going to make the massive step again and become an even better player from last year, but he sort of stagnated a little bit. Still been very good, but Serong's started to reach sort of Brayshaw numbers in 2023. He's been a joy to watch. One of my more favourite Fremantle players to watch, and for sure I think he'll be the best and fairest award winner for the Dockers at the end of the year. Massive improvement this year. Move on now to the Essendon Bombers, and for my pick as their most improved player, again a pretty obvious one. I was pretty close from going Nick Martin, but I could not go against this guy. Kyle Langford, what a season he has had. Injuries has been his problem, and inconsistencies and not finding his true position. He's always been thrown around. He's a strong utility player. I think the first round or second round or 2 rounds, he actually was playing as a key defensive back. But now we all know what a year he has had, becoming just one of their massive mainstay forwards this year for the Bombers in 2023. He's kicked 45 goals at the time of recording this video. He's kicking bags for fun. He's just such an underrated player this year. It's all about usually Peter Wright, the best and fairest winner from last year. Injuries has hurt him, but he's started to find his groove in the side again. But whilst he's been out, Kyle Langford has just been able to produce an awesome year. 45 goals is pretty much elite numbers. This guy's putting up elite numbers as a key forward. He's sort of a hard matchup too. He's been able to contain or get the better of a few key backs, and he's a very accurate set shot too. He's always been a pretty accurate kick for goal as well with the set shots. So what a year he's had, Kyle Langford. 45 goals and counting. He's just been a massive revelation with most of the absence of Peter Wright for the Bombers this year. We'll move on now to the Geelong Cats, and it's going to be the one and only Lionel Messi. Will this joke ever get old? I don't know. Probably not. It's Grime Myers, of course, the assist king, and he's always been a very good kick inside 50. He's always been a pretty unselfish player. He's had less goals than last year, so not really improvement in that regard, but it's just, his ability for now to become a just highly regarded and a bit more of a higher reputation sort of player for the Cats this year. That's probably been his biggest improvement. He's now started to become one of the more important players in Geelong's side. He's always been a bit of a role player, but now with maybe Cameron sort of stagnating a little bit in the second half of the year, Hawkins, he still put up good numbers. But yeah, Mize has just taken a massive step on finding targets inside 50. I mean, looking at his disposal numbers, 19.3 to 14.5. He's now just getting his hands on the footy a lot more this year. Last year he had 19 goal assists. This year he's got 37 and still counting. He had 5 goal assists on the weekend. He's a really good player to watch. And yeah, he's one of the most damaging kicks inside 50 as well. I'd love to see the stats numbers for this, but I can't see it on the websites I do look at. But for sure, it would be also a drastic improvement as well. Score involvement 7.2 to 5.8. Again, less goals, but it doesn't really matter with how he plays. He's becoming a massive focal point in their forward half, and he's kicking inside 50. His unselfish ability. He's becoming a star player for the Cats, and a massive improvement he has had in 2023. Moving on now to the Gold Coast Suns, and this was a really tricky one to do. I was very close from going with Noah Anderson. I mean, the coach's vote says it all. He's become just such an impactful player this year, helping without 𝐓𝐿 𝐿𝐼 for most of the year too. But I'm going to be going with Jack 𝐵𝐵𝐿𝐼, specifically because not only the impact he has caused on the side, but also this year he has had is such a crucial one for the improvement of his career, because the last few years he's been on and off. He's been unable to find his true home. He's been thrown around in defence a bit last year, a little bit in forward too, but his ability now this year to kick over 35 goals and counting and just be a mainstay stay-at-home forward and become a huge focal point in their forward line, the Suns. I mean, last year, comparing from last year, Kaz, Bolt and Chol have dropped off a bit. Ben King hasn't hit his straps like we thought this year, but yeah, I think overall this year, the consistency of 𝐵𝐿𝐼 has been really good too, averaging 1.8 goals a game, 36 goals at the moment. But this year, just individual-wise, it's been a massive improvement for himself and his career. He's just been, a huge focal point in their forward half. The marks on lead has been very good, and we all know a lovely kick he is for goal. His set shots has been very good. Even his kicks inside 52 towards targets have been great too. It was a hard one to go with either him or Noah Anderson, but I just think with 𝐵𝐿𝐼, he's made a bit more of an impact on the side, and individual-wise, he has produced such heavy improvement of numbers. So Jack 𝐵𝐿𝐼 it is for the Suns. Move on now to the GWS Giants. A few options I liked here. The big Briggsy, he was one I did consider, but I do have to go with Tom Green. Probably one of my more favourite players to watch in the competition that isn't from the Swans. Used to go to my high school, if anyone cares. Probably no one gives a shit. But anyways, the numbers he's put up has been great. And of course, the injury hasn't helped him, but just looking at some of these numbers, 31.6 disposals last year, 24.3, 14.4 contested possessions to 12.1. The clearance game as well, he's dominated 5.8 to 5.0. The tackles too, he's really improved in that regard as well. The numbers of that being 5.5 to 4.2. Yeah, the improvements stats-wise have been a drastic one. And let's be honest, the first few weeks and probably the first 3 months of footy, this guy was being considered for an All-Australian spot. He's still a criminally underrated player. The big body player he is. He's a highly desirable player for many clubs too, because he's just a young, big ball midfielder. His winning ability has been very good, and he's been able to sort of really improve his marking game as well, sort of move around the ground a little bit better, improve his outside game. That's been the big notice that what I've watched him this year. Again, the injury didn't help him. 33 coaches' votes, could be honestly a lot higher. Missed out I think 3 or 4 games, but yeah, he's made a massive improvement this year in the Giants engine room. Going to be a future superstar, Tom Green, that's safe to say. Next team up we've got is the Hawks, and instantly when I did look at their list, I was like, top of the list was John Newcombe, and I was like, yep, instantly got to be going in. What a year he's had. But I forgot about this guy, and I did have to put him in. Will Day, he's had a big year, and he was hyped up a bit in the preseason, of course, as he was going to be joining the on-ball brigade, and he's taken every single opportunity. I think apart from his suspension, I'm pretty sure he has played every single game. Injuries, of course, has hurt him, but he's been ultra consistent this year for the Hawks and their young midfield. 25.7 disposals this year, 16.1 last year. He's always played across half-back, but now moving more into the midfield, he's really improved his clearance game. Having a look at that, 5.8 tackles to 4.0 last year. In terms of the clearances, of course, massive numbers, 0.5 last year a game now to 4.2. And he's sort of like similar to Callum Mills, where he's been sort of playing that Mr. Fix-It role. He's been able to, Sam Mitchell's been able to throw him behind the ball when needed. He's taken some nice intercept marks, and he's a very composed player as well. Doesn't really hack many balls. He's, he has good decision making, and he's a star in the making all day. Really love watching this guy play, putting up some massive improvement on his numbers and his ability. Easy one for the Hawks all day. Moving now to the North Melbourne Footy Club, and it is sort of a little bit harder to pick one of these players, especially for a lower ranked team in the competition. So again, it's another vanilla selection, but it's probably the best and most impactful one I could think of, Luke Davies-Uniacke. Let's be honest, he still has put up really good improvement in his numbers. More coaches' votes. Obviously, the clearance games, the clearance numbers have really improved as well. He is known as a clearance beast. 6.8 total clearances averaging. Last year it was 5.3. Let's remember, the first 4 weeks, we were all saying this guy will be an All-Australian. He's probably leading the Brownlow at some sort of stage and probably will on Brownlow medal night for the first 3 rounds or so. Injuries didn't really help him in a few games before he got injured. You could tell he was playing not 100%, so probably does hurt his numbers in that regard. But when he is fully fit, he's such a composed and yet burstful player out of a stoppage. He's just so smooth when moving. That's what I always love watching him when he's up and about doing that sort of stuff. But yeah, improving the disposals and the clearance game is the big indicators. And now back from injury, his past month or two has been really good as well. He's been in some fine form, Davies-Uniacke, probably one of North Melbourne's most improved players of this year. Moving on now to the Melbourne Demons, and the player that I've chosen is Cade Chandler. I think this has been one of the more underappreciated players in the competition, but definitely internally they do highly rate this player because he's sort of the past few years been a bit of a verge player, the rookie player he was a few years ago, mostly playing VFL footy last year, and then premiership win from 2022, playing a bit as the sub, but now he's been able to get a consistent run at it. I think he's been dropped once. He's played 18 games this year, so pretty sure he's just missed out on the one game, but looking at some of his ability to hit the scoreboard numbers, 22 goals. It's just a massive improvement from 0 goals. He's kicked all his goals in his career from this year. He's just become an extra focal point in their attack. He's a hard worker, working hard at the ground, delivering balls inside 50, and he's been a pretty accurate kick for goal as well, especially with snaps on his left boot. Something with those left footers, they always are pretty accurate as well. But yeah, just the numbers is definitely a big indication of how big this guy has improved. And especially as of late, the D's have been really firing on all cylinders in their forward half, but it's thanks to him especially. He's been booting goals for fun as of late. I think he's kicked 3 goals, or 6 goals the past 2 weeks from what I can recall. Yeah, he's putting up great numbers, Cade Chandler. Heavily improved player for the D's this year. Next club we've got is the Port Adelaide Power, and again, another vanilla selection, but it's a pretty obvious one, Zach Butters. The improvement he has made this year is magnificent. He has turned himself into a bit of a, up-and-coming rising star to now a Brownlow medalist contention. In the span of a few weeks, it did happen. I think he did break the record for the most coaches' votes in a period amount of time. He rocketed up those coaches' votes. 87 this year, last year 18. He's just, and the numbers of course as well, 26.9 a game, last year 22.2, playing a little bit more midfield. Last year was a bit of a blend, but now he's pretty much fully on the ball, alongside the Connor Rosie and a few of those other players. The clearances, he's really improved in that area as well, 4.3 last year, 3.7, contest possessions 10.4 to 8.8. His aggression on the footy is really good. He's been able to always break free and find options inside 52, and yeah, he's one of those impactful players. Every single touch he makes maximum damage as well. A treat to watch inside 50 as well, 5.4 to 3.3 last year. Yeah, the numbers says it all, and his impact for Port Adelaide says it all as well. Massively improved player, Zach Butters, for Port Adelaide this year. Now moving on to the Richmond Tigers, and the player that I've selected is Noah Balta. I feel like this is a play, probably since 2021 or even last year, I've just been waiting on, as this guy is probably eventually going to hit his straps, the young key back. He's shown really good glimpses the past few years or so, but this year, even, let's be honest, probably at the start of the year, he was a little bit inconsistent. Even from that point onwards to now, he's made such an improvement for the Tigers this year. His foot skills always let him down a little bit, but it's just mainly his intercepting game has been a huge one. Dylan Grimes and, Vlosten, they're sort of older bodies now starting to get on a little bit, so they need some young players in there. And Noah Balta has taken that with both hands. I think he is still leading the competition in intercept marks. I mean, last year was 1.3. This year, 4.3. He's just become such a big body back there, and yeah, just been a crucial player back there for the Tigers in that key position post. Reads it remarkably well in the air. His rebound ability, when he can go well by foot, is actually quite good too. And is he a smoky chance for the All-Australian squad? That's definitely up for consideration since he is leading the comp in intercept marks. But yeah, the numbers are a massive improvement for Bolter this year, and he's going to be huge. And I think the next 10 years or so for the Tigers, massive improvement, Noah Bolter in 2023 for the Tigers. Moving on now to the Saints, and this was a very hard one to do. I came down to 3 players. There's the player that I did put in the video now, and the other 2 were the 𝐼𝐚𝐭𝐞𝐬 and Mason Wood, both having great numbers. But I've got to go with this one, probably one of the more fan favourites of the side. Mitch Owens, the year he's had is very, very good. And he's just one of those players where he just does maximum impact with every touch. So, yeah, some of the numbers, like 15.1 disposals, might not seem that high, but he's a bit of a utility play. He plays in the ruck. He sometimes plays around the footy. Of course, playing in their forward half as well. But yeah, 25 coaches votes this year. Even with champion data numbers, he's been like one of the best players since Gary Ablett Jr. of making maximum impact when the ball goes to ground or after a stoppage or post stoppage or something like that. He's a very good, his ability to win the contest at ground level has been a drastic one. Improvement as well in that regard too. But yeah, 23 goals this year, last year 3. He's just been one of the Saints' not only highest improvement players this year, improving players this year, but he's been one of the most important players for the Saints side. Still a very young player at 20 years of age, and a very good chance for the Rising Star this year. But yes, a very, very entertaining player to watch. He's very good in the air too, highly athletic, can kick goals, and he is a very good ball winning ability in dangerous spots. So yeah, Mitch Owens, for me, has to be the Saints' most improved player of 2023. Now I'll move on to the Sydney Swans, and this is a pretty obvious one. We all know who it is. Oh, Errol, I'd give everything just to be like you. What a season Errol Gulden is putting together, eh? We felt maybe like Chad Warner or another one of those younger players, maybe Rowbottom, at the start of the year would take that next leap. And look, maybe they sort of had, but Gulden's just been the clear-cut best player for the Swans this year, and his improvement on his numbers have been insane. 26.5 disposals, last year was 19.2, 557 metres gained as well. He had a big pre-season, put on a lot of bulk, and playing a little bit more on the ball this year, but he's still played mainly wing this year. And the biggest thing when watching him, when you don't really look at the stats, is just his work ethic. Like, look in the heat maps, he's just everywhere. He works hard to get marks, he works hard to get possessions, and the kicking, is just such a treat to watch. He's been able to kick goals as well, 18 goals this year. He's always been able to find an eye for goal. Inside 50s as well has been a massive improvement too. Tackles too, clearances as well. Just every statistic, he's just made a drastic improvement, and for sure will be winning the Swans Best and Fairest Award in 2023. Not much else can be said. Errol Gulden, a massively improved player for the Bloods this year. And for the final club we have got is the Western Bulldogs, and again, this is a pretty obvious one. 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴, what a year he has had. Just watching this guy's year, the development, has just been such an entertaining one to witness. He won't probably be close from making an All-Australia or anything like that this year, but usually with key forwards, they do take time, and year by year, you want to see sort of slow increments of improvement, but he's just taken a massive jump this year, and we now are ready to see that this guy, the next 2 years, could be kicking or competing for the Coleman medal, because this year he's just had a massive breakout season, improved in every facet of the stat sheet possible, really. 11.7 disposals last year, 7.9. In terms of marks on lead, 1.7 to 1.4. Contested marks, 1.4 to 1. 5.4 marks a game to 3.5. But the big one is the goals. He's kicked 31 goals this year. Last year was 18. But if you do put the stat sheet aside, just the glimpses he shows, and he's almost like a highlight reel. He's just so strong athletic-wise, really good athleticism, can jump up for marks, can take great leaps. He's usually a pretty good shot for goal as well. But yeah, just everything this guy does is shown dramatic and drastic improvement for the Doggies this year. So yeah, he's a star in the making, and his 3rd season, he's produced a fantastic breakout year. So yeah, for the Doggies, their most improved player, of course, has to be 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴. Now moving on to the West Coast Eagles. Again, sort of one of those lower ranked teams this year, so it is hard to find a few of those shining lights. But for sure, the obvious one is Tim Kelly. I was close from going Bailey Williams, to be honest. His numbers have been really, really good as of late. But yeah, Tim Kelly, I'll be honest, is probably having a career best year. Maybe 2019 was probably his career best year. But in terms of some numbers, like disposals and clearances and tackles, those are career best numbers, and he's just been really good this year for the Eagles. I know one of the highest paid players in the side, so it's hard to see or hard to justify why he should get paid that much, but it's just the quality around him isn't really helping. But he's just been really impressive to watch. He's just an absolute warrior in that midfield. He goes at it really hard. You know, he has a good ball winning, he has a good ability to win the footy, and he's been able to make some impact going inside 50 as well. So he's almost like the complete package in the midfield for the West Coast. He just always tries. You know, 110% week in, week out, and he's putting up some great numbers. Career best numbers somewhat. So yeah, a bit more of a mature age player I've put, comparing to the other players in this video, but yeah, for sure, Tim Kelly has to be in there for West Coast. So everyone, there was every single AFL club's, in my opinion, most improved player. It is, of course, on your screens right now. So yeah, there is every single most improved player at each club. So, of course, these videos do cause a little bit of debate. That's totally understandable. There's a few players that were quite stiff not to make it in a few particular clubs, but it was a hard one to do. Hard one with a few clubs to select. Very, very fine lines between a few players and all that whatnot. But yeah, feel free to let me know what you think down below in the comments. Would you maybe change a few plays, or would you give maybe a particular player some credit that I did not put in this video? But yeah, pretty tricky one to do. So yeah, there is every single AFL club's most improved player, in my opinion, for 2023. So everyone, we are now at the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you wanted to enjoy. Sort of now starting to enter into that end of the season phase where I like to get these sort of types of videos out, the every AFL clubs, blah, blah, blah. So maybe comment down below and let me know, would you want a particular video idea that I could do in the next few months? But yeah, apart from that, fellas, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to enjoy, as I always say again. And until next time, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.